Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Today's show is brought to you by Uppercut to taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course, the king of all, the cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at uppercutchops.com. That's uppercutchops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner, 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935 for uppercutchops.com. Yes! Of course, they always deserve a yes, because they are absolutely the best I've ever had. Check them out, folks. Boy, that's really good stuff. All right, a big welcome in everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Everybody else watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oates, thanks for joining us, as well as on Hotel Television and on social media. Well, listen, folks, this is unscripted. That's the best part about it. We don't follow a script. We just go about what we do, and we're thousands of shows into this, so when we make mistakes, get over it, because we do too. Anyway, all right, we're upon the NFL season here. And, of course, whenever we talk NFL, we always have to talk about what? Betting! Because show me the money! Is a big part of what's going on in the National Football League, Major League Baseball at this point, the National Basketball Association, and even betting is getting more prevalent in hockey, in the NHL. So without further ado, getting right into it right away, of course, some of you are going to get this show a little bit later than others. It just depends on what media market you're in. So at the end of the day, we look at the Ravens and Chiefs, and the latest line, according to Las Vegas casinos and sports books, has the Kansas City Chiefs at a consensus of 3. Now, the line opened at 3, and the line currently is 3. It's 2.5 at one place. In fact, that one place, it looks like it's Caesar's Palace. And it's also at Bet365, whatever the heck that is. I don't even know. But the casinos have it largely across the board at the stations. If you don't know in Las Vegas what I'm talking about, there's a bunch of casino groups. You have the Caesars group, the MGM group. You have the Boyd group for Boyd Gaming, and that would be from Sam Boyd. And then you also have the Stations Hotel, which the Stations Hotel is the Red Rock Hotel. It was the Palace Station. It still is the Palace Station. The Palms and all those other stations, Sunset Station, the Santa Fe Station, Boulder Station. Anyway, big casino group, a local group here, but they're very influential. So when I say the casinos, I'm referring usually to those groups. There's basically 4 major casino groups, and then you have a few independents as well, such as the Wynn Corporation. They own a few hotels, I believe, with the Encore and the Wynn itself. In fact, I think they're building another tower right across the street from where their current hotel sits. And if I'm not mistaken, that is the site of the old Frontier Hotel and Casino. And now another casino, I'm completely digressing here because I can. The site of the Frontier, as a matter of fact, the old Frontier Hotel, one of the best marquees ever in the city of Las Vegas, along with the Stardust signs. Well, there was rumored to be a gigantic 70-story high ball to be built there called the Moon. So you can stay on the Moon, you can dine on the Moon, and all this other stuff. And honestly, if the Moon is built, it's going to eclipse the Resort World Hotel, which is behind it, and all the others behind it. And it's going to make things very dark outside of just the moon itself, because we already have a sphere, which is like a Epcot Center. But anyway, talking about these properties because they are big influencers in the gaming and the sports betting industry. And so the reality is you have these groups that are making the decisions at the sports book, and they make the decisions technically for the line across the world, the betting line that is. They make the decisions based off of the inflow and outflow of amounts bet on these particular games. And so that's why when we talk about the current line, the latest line, you have an opening line for all you novice bettors out there. You have an opening line that comes out typically on either Sunday night or Monday morning early. Like in this particular case, it was the Chiefs opened up at -3 at home against Baltimore. And the current line, it's 3 in most places except for a few of them. Actually, the Hard Rock has it at 2, believe it or not. And so when you look at these latest lines, that means that somebody at the Hard Rock or some bettors or whatnot, they have bet the Ravens down. They put early money on the Ravens to knock that line down from 3 points, +3 to +2. That's how this stuff typically works. So anyway, now that you understand a little bit about that, it's just, well, now where are you going to place your bet? And me personally, I have a bet with loyal listener Larry. I think that's a dinner bet. And I actually took the Baltimore Ravens +3. He actually got it at 3. So that seems to be a pretty good situation. We'll go ahead and take that one. Moving on, Green Bay is +2 at Philadelphia. Now, the line opened up at Green Bay +1.5, and the line moved up to +2 to +2.5 at a couple of different venues. There are a couple of online venues. These fantasy sports betting places have it at +2.5. They seem to get a fair amount of action because of people across the country. But right here in Vegas, the line did move up 0.5 point. Therefore, it looks like at least $100,000, in my opinion, was bet on the Green Bay, or better yet, on the Philadelphia Eagles as the home team. And therefore, that would move the line about 0.5 point. Depends on the casino. Typically, the local casinos, when there's 50,000 bet in one direction, it moves about 0.5 point. That's what happens at the Super Bowl of the local casinos. But when it comes to the regular season games, there's so much action on them on a widespread basis, on a regular basis, that these lines tend to move about 100,000 action moving in one direction. So looking at this particular game, not trying to be the prognosticator, but looking at Philadelphia and their defense holds up Green Bay and Jordan Love and those guys, I think Romeo Doubs is a question mark. Why? Because I have him on my fantasy football team, and I think he's a question mark to play, which is also influencing the line. Now, if Green Bay announces that he is going to be starting, that line will jump, and the Eagles will probably pick up back. Green Bay will probably go down just a touch. So anyway, I still got Philadelphia in that one. Can't really see that going a different direction. Next one is Miami. It's a battle of Florida. Miami battles the Jacksonville Jaguars. And they've got Miami opened up at -3.5. And at most places across the board, and I'm looking at about 11 of them, it looks like all but 2 still have them at 3.5. And it's Bally's Hotel and Casinos and whatnot right here in Las Vegas. And then there's another one that I will not name because, well, honestly, they don't pay us either, so I'm not going to name them. But nonetheless, everybody has them. They opened up at 3.5. They're still at basically 3.5. And that one screams Dolphins all day, even though the home field advantage is worth 3 in the betting world when it comes to football. In this particular case, the sports books have Miami winning the game, period, even on a neutral field. So if they were at a neutral field, the line would still be 0.5 point, basically just winning the game. And this one says Miami, and Miami is absolutely loaded at this point. They've got a really, really good running back, but more importantly, they've got a good quarterback. And by the way, they have the fastest guy in football in Tyreek Hill. And plus, Jalen Waddle, along with Raheem Mostert, these guys are good. And their defense is pretty stout, too. I mean, I wouldn't really be surprised if the Dolphins contend, yes, for the Super Bowl. But the Jags are a good squad, but it's just a tough draw in the first week. So Trevor Lawrence and company is going to have their hands full with Miami. Miami's going to be running up and down the field on those guys, and I don't really see anybody beating Miami in the first few weeks in the first place. So going to hit upon one more game here before we go to break, and that's the Steelers visiting the rebuilding Atlanta Falcons. But yet the Steelers are rebuilding at the quarterback position. Not really sure what's going to happen. Russell Wilson resting most of the week. I think he still is a little bit dinged up from his last outing. The Steelers open up plus 2.5, and somehow the Falcons are minus 2.5, and actually the line has moved to 3.5 in a consensus. A lot of money is going on in Atlanta, and I think it's due to the unsure future of Russell Wilson and the lack of, in my opinion, lack of skill and quarterback IQ of Justin Fields. And I can see why the Steelers are plus 3.5 at this point. But I'm a little scared to bet this one. I think I would stay away from that because the Falcons are rebuilding. Yes, they have a newbound Kirk Cousins. They do have a couple of receivers. The defense is a little suspect, and I think Pittsburgh's going to run the ball effectively. So I would just stay away from that game. In fact, when we come back from break, we're going to dig into the Giants and Vikings and Panthers and Saints and Patriots and Bengals and so on. Lots more to come here on the Circus. Don't go anywhere.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935. Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Welcome back back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio. All ages media programming television. Big thanks for everybody over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics for supporting us for years and years and years. That's csncoyotes.com. Check them out, folks, for upcoming games and events. That's csncoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Yes! Let's round of applause for them. All right, a big welcome back to everybody over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the New York Yankees, the San Francisco 49ers, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Welcoming everybody up and down the West Coast from San Diego all the way up to Seattle and beyond. Denver, Chicago, down through Texas, all the way over to Alabama. Thanks for joining us on WAUD, home of the Atlanta Braves, and WDJY 99.1 FM in Atlanta, plus all of our other independents up and down the East Coast through New York, Boston, etc. Also, everybody on television, thanks for joining us, as well as on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. That's Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Yes, we're even streaming there as well, and thanks for joining us there, and even on the Mars rover. All right, back here with the NFL odds for this week. And so we left off with the Steelers and Falcons. I was kind of staying away from that game. Didn't really like the idea. Did like the idea that the Steelers will have a fair amount of rushing yards. I do have Najee Harris, in fact, on my football team, my fantasy football team. I think he's going to do well. Cousins will probably get his, but I'm a little suspect of the Falcons' defense. So that's one of those games, me personally, I'm staying away from. That line opened up at the Falcons were minus 2.5. And across the board, it's essentially 3.5. Everybody is betting up Atlanta, seeing that they probably don't have a lot of confidence in Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. Justin Fields, this guy. Anyway, moving on. The Minnesota Vikings travel to East Rutherford to play the New York Giants, which probably should be the New Jersey Giants. But the line opened up at the Giants were -1. And now they're +1.5. Lots and lots of money is going on the Vikings to go into New Jersey, because, yes, they are the New Jersey Giants, really, although they do play in New York. No, they play in New Jersey, but they are New York. See if you got to figure that one out. But the Giants are now +1.5 across the board at all outlets, all gambling outlets, as I see it. And the way that one's going, the trend that one's going with, I have to say that the Minnesota Vikings will probably win that game, not knowing much about the inner workings of what's happening with the teams, but knowing what the money wants. And folks, in case you don't know, it's usually as the money goes, because the money seems to know all. So just pay attention to "Show me the money!" and I'll show you a winner. So the Vikings likely will go into East Rutherford, beat the Giants, maybe on a late field goal or something like that. But there it is. The Minnesota Vikings, who are projected to be in last place in the NFC North, likely will walk away with a win. Next game has the Panthers traveling to New Orleans, down to the Big Easy. And New Orleans opens up at -4.5. And across the board, they are 4 with the exception of one of those fantasy sports outlets. They're 3.5 over there. So they've been bet down, and it looks like nobody really has any confidence in the betting world at this point with Bryce Young. And so it looks like the Saints are retooling, and somebody had bet them down across the board. Not somebody, but a large group of people or a large bankroll has bet them down across the board. And so, or better yet, strike that. I have it backwards. Yes, it's live, folks. Anything can happen. So the money has been bet on the Panthers and Bryce Young, because the line has dropped from 4.5 at the open to 4 across the board. And, of course, at one outlet, it's 3.5. So I guess there's a lot of money being bet on the Panthers in this one. Maybe they're saying Bryce Young is going to be a bounce back. I don't know. I don't really have much of an opinion on this. I have a hard time with Bryce Young because he's a small quarterback. And the players in the offensive line and defensive line, these guys are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Where, look, he was good enough to perform at the top level in college football. We haven't really seen that at the pro level at this point. And that makes me scratch my head and say, well, wait a minute. How is this guy even seeing over the line? But then you say, well, what about Russell Wilson? He won a Super Bowl as a very small quarterback. Yes, he did. He was a rollout quarterback. But the rollout quarterbacks, they get hurt frequently. And there is a small problem. Really small problem with that. However, when we look at what happened with the Panthers last year, I mean, really, they were bad. They were really bad. The Saints weren't great, but they weren't as bad as the Panthers. And so this is one of those games you'd probably want to run away from as well, only because there's no deciding factor. I mean, all the money seems to be going on the Panthers at this point. They've dropped them a full point. And another game to be very, very weary of if you are from the betting world. But here's one you probably shouldn't be. It's the Patriots traveling to Cincinnati to play the big, bad Bengals. Got to like that one. So the Bengals open up at -8, and they're still, or -8.5, and they're still essentially 8.5 across the board. So the betting has been fairly balanced on both sides. And Joe Burrow, if he could stay healthy, is going to have a really, really big year. Everybody in the betting world, I can't say everybody, but a lot of people in the betting world have really discounted Joe Burrow. Oh, well, you know, he's had his turn, this and that. Look, he had the Super Bowl stolen from him from the Rams. That game, in my opinion, was as fixed as the day is long. Aaron Donald lines up in the neutral zone when Cincinnati's driving in the Super Bowl. It's 4th and 2. That would have been an automatic first down. The Bengals would have went right in, scored, likely won the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, the media wanted the Rams. Oh, yeah. That's what happens, folks. We even had an NFL player on this show very specifically say, I can't tell you which episode, you're going to have to go back and listen to a couple thousand episodes of the circus, very specifically said that the league was fixed. As a matter of fact, he went in to work for the boys after playing in the NFL. And I got all the intimate details on it. So, folks, if you're going to say that these games aren't fixed, look, we want to believe they're not fixed. I want to believe they're not fixed. But in my opinion, they are absolutely fixed. And that's why we see these phantom calls and these convenient pass interference calls and roughing the passer calls and all this other garbage that allegedly happened when it didn't happen. These games are absolutely driven by money. Think about it. TV contracts and all these ridiculous contracts for these players. Guys that haven't even played a snap in the NFL are getting numbers unretired so they can use them. And there are hundreds of millions of dollars floating around. How? Oh, that's right. TV contracts. Betting money. That kind of stuff. But when we look at this Patriots and Bengals game, the Bengals are clearly the better team. I mean, they are leaps and bounds better than the Patriots. Look, Patriots had their run, so be it. It's the Bengals' time now. Those guys are good, and the Dolphins are good. The Chiefs are still on top of the world from, of course, winning a couple of Super Bowls back-to-back. And then you have the Baltimore Ravens, which we don't really know what's going to happen with them. They added Derrick Henry, which is great for them, but then again, it's not necessarily great for them. So it takes away from their offensive scheme, and maybe it'll keep Lamar Jackson in the pocket, in the tackle box more. If he learns to throw over the top and throw with touch, those guys could be very, very good. But right now, the Bengals, the Chiefs, and the Dolphins are the best teams in the AFC. So this Bengals team, they are -8.5, essentially 8.5 across the board. The Bengals should win this game by double digits at home in Cincinnati. Moving on, it's the Chicago Bears hosting the Tennessee Titans. Bears opened up at 4.5. The line has been dropped to 3.5. There's been a fair amount of action on the Tennessee Titans. People think that the Bears can't hold off a fairly stable Tennessee Titans club. And when I say stable, ball control. Ball control, they have good defense, they have a decent passing game. That Tennessee team is pretty good. They're very well coached. and the Bears are an unproven commodity at this time. Opening up at 4.5 is a little bit too much. I would have taken the Tennessee Titans with 4.5 at the opener, but you can still get them at 4 at the Hard Rock, for example. You can still get them at 3.5 at BetMGM or Caesars Palace and others. Bally's has them at plus 3.5 as well. Looks like the Titans are the pick there, even for my beloved hometown Chicago Bears. Cardinals travel to the Buffalo Bills, a team that is I wouldn't say they're losing their identity, but they've got a couple of issues with their personnel. They opened up at -7, being the Bills, and they're -6.5 across the board. So there's been a little bit of money on the Cardinals just to bet them down to 6.5. So a lot of people said, you know what, 7 points is a lot in the NFL. We're going to take the 7 points. And the Cardinals, with 7 points, I don't think it's enough, because I don't even know if the Cardinals are going to score 7 points. I don't care if they have newly acquired or the new draft pick signed Marvin Harrison Jr. or whatever, and Kyler Murray. The reality is Buffalo still has a very good defense. They've got a bruising quarterback. When he runs over people. Those guys are good on defense. I don't think the Cardinals are even going to score in that game. Anyway, folks, we're going to come back from break. By the way, I'm taking the Bills, -6.5. So, end of day, I'm going to go ahead and take that, and we're going to go ahead and go to break and be back here in just a few moments on the Sports Circus, finishing up with the NFL odds for the week, and then maybe talk a little bit of college football, college basketball, maybe some baseball. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come. I'm your Ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello Americans, it's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time. That's 800-950-2049.
The old way of living with diabetes is a pain. You've got to remember to do your testing and always need to stick your fingers to test your blood sugar. The new way to live your life with diabetes is with a continuous glucose monitor. Apply a discrete sensor on your body, and it continuously monitors your glucose levels, helping you spend more time in range and freeing you from painful finger sticks. If you are living with type 1 or type 2 diabetes and you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you might be eligible for a CGM through your insurance benefits. U.S. Med partners with over 500 private insurance companies and Medicare. We offer free shipping, 90-day supplies, and we bill your insurance. Call us today for a free benefits check.
800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. That's 800-659-7805.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from fabulous Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio. That's AAMP Television. Big welcome back to everybody on television, everybody watching on streaming video, everybody listening in on all of our radio affiliates as well, hotel TV, and over a half a million rooms from coast to coast in all Nielsen rated markets. Of course, that's always a good thing. And of course, we want to make sure that we welcome in everybody on the Mars rover as well. All right, continuing on with football, the NFL, and some odds. A very intriguing game matches up between the Houston Texans traveling to Indianapolis. So, of course, I wanted to call them the Baltimore Colts from back in the day. We didn't want to do that one. And, of course, the Houston Texans, they opened up at -1.5 on the road. And right now, the line is 3. So they have really, really been bet up. So nobody seems to, in the betting world, seems to have a lot of confidence in the Colts. Everybody and their brothers going with C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins and the gang. And those guys are good. They are good. But I think a lot of people are underestimating the Indianapolis Colts. They've got a very capable quarterback. They've got a good running back. Jonathan Taylor's very, very good. And look, those guys know how to play defense. So will the Texans win? I don't know. But I'll tell you what, I'll take that 3 point. That's actually a 3.5 at Hard Rock. I'll take the 3.5 all day and twice on Sunday, if you know what I mean, with the Indianapolis Colts. That's a very, very good squad. The Texans are good too, but you know what? Don't underestimate the Colts. Moving on, it's the Raiders traveling to play the Superchargers. The Raiders and the Chargers. What a great matchup. In fact, that is a good historic AFC West matchup where here you had for years and years the LA Raiders, of course, from Oakland. So you had the Oakland Raiders to the LA Raiders, back to the Oakland Raiders, to the Las Vegas Raiders, playing the Los Angeles Chargers, to the San Diego Chargers, back to the Los Angeles Chargers. This is crazy. All right, pick a city and just stay there. So the Chargers opened up at 3.5, -3.5, and across the board they're 3 everywhere. And of course, home field advantage is worth what? 3. In this case, though, the Raiders likely have the home field advantage because the Chargers have not been well received in Los Angeles. San Diego loves their Chargers. San Diego wants their Chargers back, but Spanos went and moved them to L.A., and the only reason the Raiders couldn't play in L.A. is because Kroenke, as I understood, did not want the Raiders in his stadium. And so, therefore, it was the Chargers that were able to make the move into the number 2 media market in the country, and the Raiders still have an enormous fan base throughout the greater Southern California area. And let's face it, the Raiders do play in Las Vegas, California, anyway. And so these are basically 2 home teams, so we're going to give the home field edge to the Raiders. So technically, that line should be -3 going against the Raiders, or basically the line should be a picket at this point. And really, you flip a coin with this one because you never know who's going to win it. And the Chargers are clearly the better team. Personnel-wise, they are better coached. They are the better club. No question. And will the Chargers cover the 3 against the Raiders? No question. Moving on. The Denver Broncos and the Fighting Bo Nixes are headed over to Seattle. Now, Seattle is a very, very difficult to play. Very difficult place to play. But, in fact, everybody is betting up in the betting world, seemingly. They have taken the Seahawks that opened up at 4.5, and they have driven that price all the way up to 6, with the exception of the Hard Rock and one of those online betting forums. But consensus is 6 points currently for the Seattle Seahawks. I'm inclined to take the Denver Broncos. Geno Smith does not impress me. Charbonnet does not impress me. Lockett doesn't impress me. Metcalf is good. The defense is pretty good. But Sean Payton will have his boys ready to go into Seattle. And Bo Nix is making his NFL debut. I think Bo Nix is going to be one hell of an NFL quarterback. He should have won the Heisman Trophy. He didn't win the Heisman Trophy. He had the best numbers, and they gave it to the other guy. We'll just leave it like that. They give it to Jaden Daniels, probably based off of other stuff instead of quarterback skills and other things. I believe that Bo Nix should have won the Heisman Trophy. He certainly had the best statistics, and he had one hell of a run in college football last year. So Bo Nix is going to play very well on the road in Seattle. Maybe a couple of tough snaps here and there. He may cough the ball up once or twice. Who knows? I think the Broncos are going to cover the 6, or they're going to stay within 6 points. Hell, they might even win the game. So for me, it's the Broncos plus 6. Washington, the guy that won the Heisman Trophy, Jaden Daniels, somehow over Bo Nix, his club opened up at +4 at Tampa Bay, the Fighting Mayfields, the Baker Mayfields. Tampa opened up at -4, and now their consensus is they're a -3.5 across the board. So essentially what the bettors are saying here is we believe that the Commanders are going to stay within that 24-21 type of a game. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take, even if Tampa wins by a field goal, we're still going to win from the betting side of it. So it looks like the Commanders +3.5 seem to be a pretty good bet, according to the bettors. I don't think so. I think Jaden Daniels is going to have a very tough time against a stout defense in Tampa. Tampa should win that game, something to the tune of 23-6. Moving on, the Fighting Jerry Joneses, the Dallas Cowboys, travel to Cleveland to play Deshaun Watson, and I believe they're minus Nick Chubb in Cleveland. Cleveland opens up, here's a funny thing, Cleveland opens up at +1.5 at home, thinking that the Cowboys are going to win the game. But the current line for Cleveland is -2.5 across the board. All betting outlets, according to what I'm looking at here, have Cleveland -2.5. So that's a 4-point swing. So there has been enormous money put on the Cleveland Browns to go from +1.5 to -2.5 across. And so you ask yourself, is this a Deshaun Watson influence? Is this an Amari Cooper influence? Is Nick Chubb going to play? I don't know, but the Browns, the way the money is trending here, how do you not bet the Browns? In fact, to win at home, most of the time these teams win by at least a field goal. And if that's the case, well, that field goal, even if it's a 17-14 kind of a game, whatever, well, that field goal still puts Browns financially in the winner's circle when it comes to the sports betting world. I'm taking the Browns. I'm just following the money here because that's what you're supposed to do, follow the money. And the Browns will beat the Cowboys and Dak Prescott, and we'll see what happens there. Jerry Jones might get off to a really bad start. Now, the Lions are hosting the South Central Sheep from L.A. That would be the Lions and the Rams. Lions open up -3, and now the Lions are -4.5. Matthew Stafford goes home to Detroit. I think Matthew Stafford's going to have a big day back in Detroit. The line opened up -3. The line's up to -4.5 for the Lions. I'll take the Rams +4.5. That's a lot of points for a pretty good Rams team, and they still have some very good weapons, and they have a reasonable defense. It's probably going to be one of those high-scoring games, that 37-34 kind of a game, something to that effect. It's going to be a high-scoring game, but end of day, I happen to believe that it's going to be the Rams covering the 4.5. And in the final game, and this is Monday Night Football, it's the New York Airplanes going to the San Francisco 49ers, but you can call them the Jets. The Jets opened up +6.5. They're down to +4.5. Why? That's a 2-point swing for a Monday night game. You know why? Because Aaron Rodgers will be playing in this game. 49ers will win this game, likely. McCaffrey will probably have a good day. Deebo Samuel, good day. Even Brandon Ayuk, good day. Brock Purdy, good day. But in a shootout, I think it's going to be the Jets covering the 4.5. And, look, the Jets could even win the game, but I don't think so, because Aaron Rodgers is technically going home to the Bay Area. That's where he's from. It'll be one of those tight games, but I believe the Jets somehow will still win +4.5. And at the end of this whole rodeo for the week, hopefully you have made more money than you lost, and if so, you'll be in business for the next week. That's how this stuff works, folks. Because why? It's all about money in the grand scheme of things when it comes to the professional football ranks, and college football is pro football at this point anyway. Why? Because the name, image, and likeness payoffs, people lose their amateur standing by taking $1 during their amateur time. Therefore, they are no longer amateurs. Now they're paid professionals. And so that's what we're seeing. And even high school kids, it's crazy. High school kids are getting paid. We talk about this on a very regular basis. And a lot of people ask about it, so we keep going over it. But with this pro football, follow the money. The money knows all. And really, that's the way to play it as far as I see it.
Show me the money!
Honestly, it's been that way since I was a little kid. Nothing's changing. We're going to be back in a few minutes on the circus. Lots more to come. Final segment coming right up. Don't go anywhere.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi Code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from fabulous Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio. That's AAMP Television. Welcome back to everybody on all of our radio and television outlets, as well as streaming media, too, on Facebook, Chicago Food Favorites. Folks, make sure you check that out. Head on over to Facebook and just type in Chicago Food Favorites and follow and like. Have some fun with it. It's free. I'm the administrator for it. Listen, if you have any favorite recipes or favorite restaurants, I don't care where in the world it is, just make sure you check out that particular page. We don't get anything for it. It's just a lot of fun. In fact, a lot of times we feature our friends on there as well. And one of those is Al's Number One Italian Beef at 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. Of course, they always get an enormous round of applause from us because that's one of our favorites. We don't get anything for saying it. It's just because we dig the place. And when you go there, make sure you check them out and tell them that the circus sent you. Go see Bones. That's right, Bones. Just like bones on your body. Bones. Check him out and tell him that I sent you over there. And maybe he'll give you, I don't know, maybe a free French fry or something. Who the heck knows? Maybe he won't. I don't know. But anyway, the food's phenomenal. And if you can't get over there to 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago, make sure you go to alsbeef.com. That's alsbeef.com. Pick up yours today. All right, talking about the NFL in the last few segments and odds and whatnot. You know, some of these bettors are also super fans. And the Kansas City Chiefs have a problem with one of their super fans. Now, this is according to USA Today. A Kansas City Chiefs superfan was sentenced to 17 and a half years in prison without parole for committing numerous armed bank robberies, says the Department of Justice. Oh, yeah. So this person, Xavier Babudar, is 30 years old. He's known as Chiefs-aholic. Was also ordered to pay $532,675 in restitution to victim financial institutions and give up an autographed painting of Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes that has since been recovered by the FBI. That's unbelievable. Now, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Missouri, Babudar lived a nomadic existence at various locations around the Kansas City metro area. He would usually show up at Chiefs games, both home and away, in a gray wolf suit. Now, of course, federal authorities say his 16-month crime spree, which began in March of 2020, resulted in 11 different banks being robbed. Didn't even know people still do that. That's unbelievable. That's like old Western stuff. Anyway, Babudar stole $847,725, and authorities say most of that was not recovered. Wow. Think about that, folks. That's a huge number. Anyway, back in February, he pled guilty to 1 count of bank robbery, 1 count of money laundering, and 1 count of transporting stolen property across state lines. Babudar also pled guilty to another count of bank robbery, which was contained in a separate case filed in the Northern District of Oklahoma. And he was sentenced to 17 and a half in each case, which will be served concurrently. His life of crime ended on July 7 of 2023 when he was arrested in Lincoln, California. So, Bixby, Oklahoma police caught him running from an armed robbery on December 16th, 2022, after stealing $139,000 from Tulsa Teachers Federal Credit Union. He was released on bond 2 months later. And the following month, he cut off his GPS monitor after winning $100,000 in gambling bets on the Chiefs. So this guy proceeded to rob 2 more banks in Sparks, Nevada, El Dorado Hills, California, while authorities were even looking for him. Look, this guy has been on nothing but a horrible, horrible run. And of course, sometimes the betting world makes people do crazy things. Money will make you do crazy things. Now, money doesn't actually do it. People's greed does it. I need more. I need more. I need more. You got to have more.
Show me the money!
That's all they say. Show me the money. Give me more money until something bad happens. And the whole thing is blown up. This guy is going to be locked up for a very, very long time for stealing money from other people. I mean, this is crazy. Yo, go out and get a job. Go do what you're doing. And look, I have no problem with people rooting for their teams, and there are super fans out there. In fact, the athletes, in many cases, they call them foam fingers. Yeah, so if you get known as a foam finger, that means you're a super fan to a particular degree. That's what they say within the athletic world. But you don't have to do stupid stuff like rob banks and all that other crap. And guess what? It's just not necessary, because at the end of the day, these are just games. Remember, they are games and nothing more. Now, switching over to the NCAA, we think of the expansion, the whole, I don't know, this conference expands, this one expands. We've seen crazy expansion from the Big Ten and from the SEC and the ACC going all the way across to the left coast and picking up teams in the San Francisco Bay Area. How about this one? The Big 12 pauses the expansion discussions they were having with the University of Connecticut. Of course, the Huskies were thinking about basketball, definitely not football with Connecticut. The Huskies could have joined the conference in basketball and other non-football sports in as early as 2026. That's what the report has. So UConn isn't heading to the Big 12 in the near future, apparently. So the Big 12 commissioner, Brett Yormark, said in a statement that the conference was pausing expansion discussions with the Huskies. The league had been pursuing UConn to join as a member in basketball. That's really ridiculous. Not football, but basketball, kind of like Notre Dame, being in the ACC only for basketball, or better yet, other sports except football. But then again, that's Notre Dame. Anyway, the league had been pursuing UConn to join as a member in basketball and other sports as soon as 2026, before football would join 5 years later. 5 years, saying, okay, you're going to have 5 years to build a football team so you can actually compete in the Big 12. Anyway, so the commissioner had said in a statement, quote, "As commissioner, it's my responsibility to explore a variety of value-creating opportunities on behalf of the Big 12. Following details discussed with my conference colleagues alongside UConn leadership, we have jointly decided to pause our conversation at this time. We will instead focus our attention and resources to ushering in the new era of college athletics." Close quote. Now, my best guess is this didn't happen because of what? Oh, that's right, because of money. You know, we really need another sound drop for money. Anyway, according to Yahoo Sports, as early as a few weeks back, the conference and UConn were in serious negotiations ahead of a presentation to Big 12 presidents that occurred before the football season began. Now, as football has largely driven conference realignment over the past 15 years in college sports, Yormark hasn't been shy about the value of basketball. Adding UConn would do more for the conference in both men's and women's basketball than it would for football, as we had stated. However, the Big 12 is already arguably the toughest and deepest men's basketball conference in the country currently, because it was the ACC for decades. And that was before Arizona joined with Arizona State, Colorado, Utah in the summer. It's really the University of Arizona, which is the class basketball group out of that foursome. Adding the two-time defending national champions would make it ridiculously tough. That would be adding UConn. So it seems clear, however, that the Big 12 as a whole wasn't too hip to the idea of adding UConn right away. They didn't really need to. And it's hard to imagine a pause in discussions if the conference was in favor of the Huskies joining. So it looks like there was a little bit of pushback from some of these other squads. So it's either worth considering the role for them, but the network, think about what Fox has to offer here. Look, the network has the rights to the Big East basketball as well as the Big 12 football games, and the Huskies are the most valuable Big East school for the network. Losing UConn basketball games wouldn't be worth a few football games per season, according to, I guess, what Fox's needs could be. So that's going to be paused for right now. And you know what we're going to jump into real quick, just because we can? How about a no-hitter? A 3-man no-hitter for the Chicago Cubs. And of course, it was rookie Shota Imanaga. This guy was pulled after 7 no-hit innings. Now, I don't really like that idea. Of course, that always deserves a round of boos. And so, yes, Imanaga did get an all-star bid midway through his first season. And of course, he really had an incredible effort this rookie season. He's really playing well, pitching 7 no-hit innings in a 12-0 win over the Pittsburgh Pirates, but he wasn't allowed the chance to complete the no-hitter, which I have a real problem with. And good old Craig Counsell says, you know what, we're going to pull this guy after 7 innings and 96 pitches. There's that proverbial pitch count, which is a bunch of crap. So the Cubs dumped in Nate Pearson and Porter Hodge to complete the no-hitter effort with 1, 2, 3 innings in the 8th and 9th, whatever. The no-hitter was the first of any kind by the Cubs in Wrigley since 1972. Back in 1972, I was actually a Cubs fan. Of course, they lost me, about a decade later. Anyway, on the night, Imanaga allowed no hits, no runs, and 2 walks. So the perfect game was by the wayside because you can't have a base runner. But anyway, that's pretty damn good. So he threw 66 of his 95 pitches as strikes, which frankly, that doesn't really matter because you could be living outside the strike zone, but as long as you're right off the black of home plate, you're going to have pitches close enough where hitters actually have to make an attempt at those. He lowered his season ERA to 2.99 and his whip to 1.02, which means walks and hits per innings pitched, for all you that don't know, through 153 in the third innings pitched. Now, that's pretty damn good. Yes, he got plenty of run support. We know that. And they scored a whole bunch of runs. But, we think of a very good pitcher in Imanaga, but then you look at the other side of the coin, who still should be the actual favorite for the Rookie of the Year National League, which would be Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens, he just gets out there and he deals. Man, this kid is good. Yes, Jackson Merrill has made a late charge. He was Player of the Month, Rookie Player of the Month, whatever it was, last month. However, Paul Skeens should be your Rookie of the Year through the entire season he's played. This kid has been as advertised, and he is good. With a sparkling ERA of right around 2, he's 9-2 on the season. This guy strikes the world out, and just because Jackson Merrill decided to play well in the last month or so doesn't mean that he's performed at the same level that Paul Skeens has the entire year. Remember, Skeens started the All-Star game for the National League on top of it. Paul Skeens should be and likely will be the National League Rookie of the Year. Very well deserved. It should even be in the Cy Young discussions as well. That's going to do it for the circus today. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, and we'll see you in about 23 hours on your favorite station right here. Until then, so long, everyone.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.